¿Qué sopa, frencitos? ¿Cómo están? Sean todos bienvenidos a un nuevo episodio de Jesús Es Mi Bro. Hoy nos vinimos a un lugar bastante diferente al que ustedes están acostumbrados a ver. Estamos ahorita mismo en el puerto Bacamonte, acá en Arraiján. Es uno de los puertos más importantes que abastece tanto Chorrera, Arraiján y la ciudad. Así que vamos a hacer un leve recorrido por acá para que ustedes lo puedan disfrutar. Quédense aquí, esto es Jesús Es Mi Bro.
Y sicarios, que son trapel de verdura y millonarios. No hay mesura ni censura en su vocabulario. Y a través de esta música, y a través de esta música, los tipos míos no son trapel ni sicarios. Son raperos con un don extraordinario. Por ganar tu alma van a hacer lo necesario. Y a través de esta música, y a través de esta música,
El Espíritu del Señor está sobre mí, por cuanto me ha ungido, para llevar libertad a los presos y amor a los afligidos. Por ejemplo, tú, que estás abatido detrás de un poco de sonido, pero estás falto de contenido y hablas de cosas que nunca has vivido. Yo, ¿cómo es posible que lo tuyo es bacanería y avería? Dicen que tienen pistola y tiembla cuando venga una patrulla. Si es verdad que tú amaneces en hoteles toda la noche con la mujer mía, yo quisiera que tú me dijeras dónde rayos que amanece la tuya. Tú quieres ser trapestar, yo estar sobre la roca, así como el Dios sobre el mar. En mi corazón desemboca 2000 años pegado mundialmente por lo que salió de su boca. Ustedes pegan un disco y en 2 años no hay quien lo conozca. Vale más la salvación, vale. En oración y comunión el pecado sale. Nosotros no somos iguales, nosotros sí somos reales. Por más que tú tires, que huele y que jale, con Cristo ese pleito no sale.
Tú no imaginas de dónde es que vengo y las cosas que veo en el barrio. ¿Qué opinarías si el sueño de tu hijo es de convertirse en sicario? En un escenario donde las canciones le están lavando la cabeza. Vengo de un sitio donde las princesas no saben que son princesas. Sueñan con sapos, mujeres de capo, vivir la vida de rico. No es lo mismo verlo en la TV que verlo en la esquina de tu casa, me explico. Por eso vinimos con una palabra de fe y de poder. Y a través de esta música y a través de esta música por eso no me quedo de brazos cruzados. Sigo batallando, así que abreme paso, es demasiado. Ya estoy cansado de escuchar los mismos raperos que creen que lo que hacen es caro, que lo que hacen es caro. No hay garantía, así que no compare esta grasa con trapo, no. Vinimos para dar vida, vida que fluye de lo más sencillo. Creí en el Señor y el Señor me levantó estando en el capotillo. Nada en la tierra podrá detener lo que se empezó en el cielo. Esto es solo el comienzo, así que pendiente que ahorita nos vemos. Chau.
Ellos dicen que son capos y sicarios, que son trapel de verdura y millonarios. No hay mesura ni censura en su vocabulario. Y a través de esta música, y a través de esta música, los tipos míos no son trapel ni sicarios. Son raperos con un don extraordinario. Por ganar tu alma van a hacer lo necesario. Y a través de esta música, y a través de esta música,
A mí nadie me vende sueño. Yo soy el hijo del dueño. Se perdieron los planos del trap y Dios me devolvió el diseño. Ellos vienen con mensaje porno, por eso traímos trastorno, para darle salvación y sacar su alma del horno. Tú no te has puesto a pensar que todo lo que dicen es fantasía, que tienen millones, que tienen mujeres, porque su vida está vacía. Si son asesinos confesos, ¿cómo es que nunca caen preso? Real gangsters moving silence, otro ratón con ese queso. Representó a la familia con más fluido que Mick Millie. Porque vine con este flow, rompen a tan eso me dijo Willy. Mienten en todas sus canciones, poniendo tu vida en juego. Y como su nariz no crece, lo que le crece es el ego. Yo no te vine a ofender, nah, vine a montarte la pura. Que yo no soy redimido, pero no canto basura. Por ser un trastornador, andan buscando a Natán. Morir en Cristo es ganancia, dispárame al pecho, morir es mi plan.
So, como que nací, si aquí ya todo se dijo. No es un sueño acabar de escuchar a 3 tipos en un trap y ninguno maldijo. Estos tipos que vienen conmigo son 20 veces más duros que amigos. Y estamos fabricando el único trap que pueden consumir tus hijos. Ningún género musical es malo, dime quién eres tú para condenarlo. La música es el papel del regalo, pero ese regalo hay que revisarlo. Si tienes música voy a usarlo. El evangelio voy a anunciarlo. Si este código no puedes descifrarlo es por estar consumiendo conejo malo. Que lloren, que vuelvan y digan, los cristianos no están tirando. A mí también me dan ganas de llorar cuando escucho lo que están zumbando. Ya saben que aquí no hay nada personal, por sus almas seguimos orando. Pero alguien tenía que decirle que le bajen 100 porque se están pasando. Soy un todoterreno, vine a arrancar la semilla del veneno. La caja del trap se ve linda, pero hay que cambiarle relleno. Fariseo no quiera frenarme, que yo no soy el de desenfreno. Soy un emisario con una misión aprobada por el Nazareno. Trap, 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 trap. 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 Ellos dicen que son capos y sicarios, que son trapel de verdura y millonarios. No hay mesura ni censura en su vocabulario. Y a través de esta música, y a través de esta música, los tipos míos no son trapel ni sicarios. Son raperos con un don extraordinario. Por ganar tu alma van a hacer lo necesario. Y a través de esta música, y a través de esta música, Yo, y hasta aquí han llegado estos que trastornan el mundo, haciéndole un trastorno al trap. Rubinsky RBK, y directamente del aposento alto, el Philip, Natán el profeta, y este es su servidor, redimido, man.
Hey, bendiciones mi gente, yo soy Madiel Lara on the beat y estoy aquí para anunciarles que este 14 de abril estaré por primera vez en Panamá, en Puerto Caimito. Así que únete a nosotros y a una sola voz diremos que Dios nunca falla. Yeah. Skr, skr.
The Gospel of Luke opened with the birth of Jesus.
Then Luke showed us how Jesus was Israel's Messiah, announcing the good news of God's kingdom to the poor, and how he was God's true prophet to Israel.
In this next section, Jesus sets out with his disciples on a long road trip to Jerusalem, where they'll join thousands of Israelites to celebrate the ancient feast of Passover.
Now, Luke wants this road trip from the mountain to Jerusalem to remind you of ancient Israel's long road trip. With Moses, they went from Mount Sinai to the Promised Land. And then later, King David established Jerusalem as their capital. And so here, Luke is portraying Jesus as a new Moses who's renewing Israel's covenant with God, and as a new David. He's gathering the people together to live under his rule.
As Jesus leaves, he sends out a wave of his followers ahead of him to prepare each new place for his visit.
Then Jesus would arrive, announcing the good news of God's kingdom, and he would call people to follow him and join this new thing God was doing in Israel.
There are many of his teachings and parables in this section, specifically about how following Jesus will force you to totally rethink your money, how you resolve conflict, and how you treat the poor.
In every town, Jesus would create communities of people who were learning to live in a totally new way, so that greed would be transformed into generosity and anger into forgiveness. And in these Jesus communities, all outsiders are welcome.
Yeah, good news for the poor. That's one of Luke's main themes.
Yeah, you'll find it all over this section. The marginalized people that he heals, the shamed sex workers he reaches out to, the tax collectors he includes. This is Jesus' kingdom crew.
And Israel's religious leaders watch and start to criticize him. If he really is God's prophet, why is he welcoming sinners and eating with them?
Yeah, this section reads like the Battle of the Banquets. So Jesus throws these dinner parties as a symbol of how God's kingdom is here for the sick and the poor, people who could never pay him back.
Jesus also attends banquets with Israel's religious leaders.
Yeah, and he lays into them for becoming an arrogant, exclusive social club.
But they don't get it, and so he tells them a famous parable that goes like this.
There was a father who had 2 sons.
The older son is trustworthy and honors his father.
And the younger son, he's a mess. He rebels and cashes in his inheritance to travel far away and blow it all on partying and being stupid.
And then there's a famine in the land, and he runs out of money, so he has to scrape by taking care of somebody's pigs. And he's so hungry he wants to eat the pig slop, at which point it occurs to him, if I'm gonna be a farmhand, I might as well go home and work for my dad. At least I won't be eating pig food. So he treks back home, rehearsing his apology.
Now, the father is certain that his son did not survive the famine. But then, one day, he sees someone walking down the road. It's his son. He's not dead. And so the father runs to him and embraces his son, kissing him all over.
The son starts his speech. Dad, I don't deserve to be your son. Maybe I could come and work for you.
But before he can finish, the father calls his servants to go get the nicest robe, new sandals, a fancy ring for his son. They are to prepare the best food for a banquet. It is time to celebrate.
Now later that day, the older brother arrives from a long day working in the field to discover his long-lost loser brother has come home, and they're celebrating?
And he gets angry. And think about it. He's been faithful to his father all of these years. He never got a party like this. And then this disgrace of a family member comes home, and they're going to celebrate him? It's disgusting. He refuses to join the banquet.
So the father finds the older brother outside, and he says,
Son, you are already in our family. Everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate your brother because he was lost. And now he's found. He was dead, but now he's alive.
Jesus wants the religious leaders to see the outsiders the way God sees them, as sons and daughters that are being reclaimed from death.
Jesus' kingdom community was wide open to anybody. The only entry requirement is to humble yourself and recognize your need for God's mercy. And so the religious leaders' rejection of Jesus and his crew is actually a rejection of the God of Israel.
The leaders don't like all of this, and so as Jesus' road trip comes to an end, the conflict is at a boiling point.
Yeah, he's going to ride towards Jerusalem for Passover as they plot to take his life. And that's what the next section of Luke is all about.
El Guaturro, Mariscos 12, Mariscos 14, María Teresa. Esos son algunos de los nombres de los barcos que vemos aquí atrás. La verdad, ahorita mismo se ve bastante tranquilo, pero este es uno de los lugares donde hay más actividad. Así que bueno, con esta rica brisa que está corriendo ahorita mismo, nos despedimos. Regresamos ahorita en unos minutitos para el segundo bloque de Jesús es mi bro. Así que quédense aquí que ya me voy a tirar. ¡Ah! ¡Ja, ja! La verdad es que está siendo un día súper rico, una brisa como para estar acostado en una hamaca, delicioso. Pero bueno, este es el segundo bloque de Jesús es mi bro. Espero que les haya gustado el primero y sé que les va a gustar este también. Les recuerdo de que se pueden suscribir a nuestro canal de YouTube, youtube.com/Jesús es mi bro. Ahí van a estar todos los episodios que ya han salido y los que van a estar saliendo. Así que bueno, seguimos acá. Ustedes quédense en este segundo bloque de Jesús es mi bro.
So we're walking through the Gospel of Luke, and we've reached the end of Jesus' long road trip to Jerusalem. He's arrived.
So he rides a donkey down the Mount of Olives towards the city, and all these crowds are forming, and people are singing, "Praise the King who comes in the name of the Lord." They're laying down their cloaks in front of him.
Why all this royal treatment?
Okay, so Israel's ancient prophets promised that one day God himself would arrive and rescue his people and rule the world. Other times, the prophet spoke about a coming king who would ride into Jerusalem to bring justice and peace.
So Jesus is activating all these hopes that he's that king, and everyone's ecstatic.
Well, not everybody. The religious leaders, they think Jesus is a threat to their power, and so they're not happy. But even more striking, Jesus himself is distraught. He's actually weeping as he rides.
Yeah, why?
Well, Jesus can see what is coming. He knows that he won't be accepted as Israel's king, and he knows that Israel will keep going down a destructive path, neglecting the poor, stirring up rebellion against their Roman oppressors, and he knows that it will lead to death. It breaks his heart.
And it riles him up. The first thing he does in Jerusalem is march into the temple courts, and he drives out the money changers, disrupting the entire sacrificial system.
Yeah, he's staging a prophetic protest, and he stands in the center of the courtyard, shouting out words from Israel's ancient prophets. This is supposed to be a place of worship, but you've made it a den of rebels.
A den of rebels?
Yeah, he's quoting from the prophet Jeremiah, who stood in this same spot, the center of Israel's religious and political power. And he offered the same critique of Israel's leaders, that they're rebellious and corrupt.
And they get the message and start to plan to have him killed.
Which is no surprise to Jesus. In fact, he planned that all of this would happen during Passover.
This is the Holy Week when Jewish people celebrate their ancient story of how God liberated them from slavery and invited them into a covenant relationship.
And so Jesus uses the symbols of Passover to reveal the meaning of his coming death. The broken bread was his broken body, and the wine was his blood that would establish a new covenant relationship between God and Israel. Jesus was going to die for his people and open up a new way forward.
After the meal, Jesus takes his disciples to a garden to pray.
And he struggles with the very human desire to save his life instead of sacrificing it, but he overcomes this temptation.
And it's here where the religious leaders, with the temple guards, find him and arrest him.
Now, Jerusalem was being ruled by the Roman Empire, and so the temple leaders couldn't execute Jesus without permission from their Roman governor, a man named Pontius Pilate. And so they make up this charge that Jesus is a rebel king stirring up revolution against the Roman emperor.
Pilate asks Jesus, "Are you the king of the Jews?"
And Jesus answers, "You say so."
So Pilate can see that Jesus is an innocent man and he doesn't deserve death.
But the leaders keep insisting that he is dangerous, so they negotiate a compromise. Pilate will release an actual rebel against Rome, a man named Barabbas, instead of Jesus. And so the innocent is handed over in the place of the guilty.
Jesus is taken away with two other accused criminals and nailed to a Roman execution device. And people are mocking him. Hey, if you're the Messianic king, save yourself and us.
But Jesus loved his enemies to the very end, offering hope to one of the criminals dying beside him. And he even prayed for his executors. "Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing."
And then the sky darkened as an innocent man died the death of a rebel.
And then Jesus cried out with ancient words from Israel's Psalms, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." And then Jesus died, innocent and alone.
¿Cómo estás? Mi nombre es Georgie Campos y pues para mí siempre será un placer estar aquí con ustedes en Jesús Es Mi Bro, compartiendo una pequeña reflexión y hablarles el día de hoy acerca de la tranquilidad que da saber de que Jesús está de tu lado. En una ocasión Jesús parte con los discípulos en el mar y cuenta la Biblia de que se despertó esta tremenda tempestad. Y esto lo relacionamos hoy en día, lo podemos ver hoy en día junto con las cosas que nos pasan a diario, o las situaciones que tenemos a lo largo de un mes. Todas estas tempestades, toda esta locura, todo esto de corre, la escuela, la universidad, el trabajo. Y a veces nos llenamos de tanta preocupación. Y eso fue lo que le pasó a los discípulos en esa ocasión. Inclusive corrieron a donde Jesús. Y le gritaban y le decían, Jesús, no te importa que vamos a morir. Y es lo que a veces nos pasa a nosotros. A veces pensamos que Dios no nos está escuchando. A veces pensamos que Dios está dormido. O que simple y sencillamente quitó su rostro de nosotros. Pero no es así. Jesús lo que quiere compartir contigo y con cada uno de nosotros es la tranquilidad que Él da cuando está junto con nosotros en el mismo lugar. Cuando tú tienes a Jesús en tu vida y estás seguro de que Él te acompaña a todo lugar donde tú estás, hay una paz y una tranquilidad que solamente Él sabe dar. Inclusive Él lo menciona y dice, mi paz os dejo, mi paz os doy. Y no es la paz que da el mundo, sino que esta es una paz duradera. No es la paz que te evita preocuparte. Es la paz que mientras estás preocupado, te da la tranquilidad de que sabes que no es eterno, que el único que es eterno realmente es Él. Y esa es la paz que Jesús quiere que hoy conozcas. Esa es la paz que Jesús está llamando hoy a tu vida. Y en esa misma paz quiero orar contigo, si me lo permites. Acerca de los problemas que estés pasando hoy día, quiero compartir una oración contigo. Padre eterno, Jesús amado, tú eres único, eres Rey verdadero, eres Rey poderoso, eres Rey de nuestras vidas. Señor, y hoy en conjunto con las personas que están viendo este programa, quiero pedirte que nos llenes de tu paz. Quiero pedirte de que seas tú quien nos guíe en cada paso para estar seguros de que cada uno de los pasos que damos tiene una firmeza de que tú vas con nosotros, que tú estás al lado de nosotros caminando, Señor. Guíanos a través del poderoso Espíritu Santo para que podamos conocerte cada día más y saber que cuando tú estás en nuestra barca no tenemos nada que temer, que muy por el contrario estamos con aquel que sabe calmar la tempestad y que tiene poder para hacerlo. Amén. Que el Señor te bendiga y ya sabes, no te despegues de la pantalla de Jesús es mi bro. Y bueno, llegamos al fin del segundo bloque. Todavía queda uno más y les pido que se queden. Solamente vamos a hacer una pequeña pausa porque yo sé que lo que viene va a ser de mucha bendición para todos ustedes. Recuerden que nos pueden seguir en Facebook y en Instagram como Jesús es mi bro. Así que ahorita mismo regresamos. Quédense aquí. ¿Qué sopa, frencitos? Bueno, hemos llegado al tercer bloque. Me alegra que se hayan quedado aquí con nosotros. Así que, pues nada, disfrútenlo, reflexionen en lo que van a ver y sobre todo pónganlo en práctica. Esto es Jesús es mi bro.
We've been looking at the story of Jesus as it's told in Luke's Gospel. It begins with the arrival of an unlikely king born in poor, humble circumstances.
Then we saw Jesus as a teacher and prophet. He went throughout Israel calling people to a radical way of life, where enemies become friends, the poor are cared for, where people find forgiveness for their failures.
He went from town to town inviting people to follow him and live under God's reign in this upside-down way.
And he did many signs and wonders, so many Israelites began to hope that he would rescue Israel from the Romans and set up a new kingdom of peace and justice. In short, that he would bring the kingdom of God.
Now, the religious leaders of the day were also hoping for God's kingdom, but to them, the message of Jesus was a threat.
Yeah, they had expected to gain power and prestige when this all went down. But Jesus said God's kingdom belongs to the poor, to the outsider, and that real power is serving others in love.
This conflict intensified when Jesus, while in Jerusalem, disrupted the temple sacrifices and called Israel's leaders a gang of rebels.
So they arrested Jesus, and they had him accused before the Roman authorities of being a rebel king. He was handed over for execution, even though he was innocent. Then he was taken outside the city and put to death on false charges.
This brings us to the final section of the Gospel of Luke. There was a religious leader named Joseph who opposed Jesus' execution and then requested to be given his body so he could bury Jesus in a nearby tomb.
And then a couple of days later, some women who had followed Jesus came to visit that tomb, and they found it open and empty, and they encountered these mysterious figures telling them Jesus was alive from the dead. So they run away terrified. Nobody believes their report. I mean, he can't be alive. They all saw him die.
Now, just outside of Jerusalem, a pair of Jesus' followers were leaving the city, traveling on a road to a town called Emmaus, and they were sad and confused about everything that had happened.
Then Jesus shows up, walking alongside them, but they don't know it's him.
Yeah, that's weird. Why couldn't they recognize him?
Yeah, it's an odd but really significant image for Luke. They're blind to Jesus for some reason. So Jesus asks them, "What are you guys talking about?"
And they begin to tell him about Jesus, a powerful prophet who they expected would rescue Israel, but was instead executed. Some women say he's alive, which is crazy. It's all too much. We're going home.
So Jesus tries to explain that this is what the Jewish scriptures had been pointing to all along, that Israel needed a king who would suffer and die as a rebel on behalf of those who actually are rebels. And then he would be vindicated by his resurrection so he could give true life to those who would receive it.
But it's still not making sense. They're as confused as ever.
Which leads to the scene where they sit down for a meal with Jesus. He takes the bread, he blesses it, breaks it, and gives it to them, just as he did at the Last Supper.
Yeah, this is the image of his broken body, his death on the cross.
And it's when they take in the broken bread, that's when their eyes are open to see Jesus. Then he disappears, and the episode's over.
So this is a story about how it's hard to see Jesus for who he really is.
Yes, this is brilliant. I mean, how could God's royal power and love be revealed through this man's shameful execution? How could a humble man become the king of the world through weakness and self-sacrifice? It's very hard to see. But this is the message of the Gospel of Luke. It takes a transformation of your imagination to see it and embrace Jesus' upside-down kingdom.
The Gospel of Luke ends with Jesus and all of his disciples together over another meal. And everyone's freaking out about his resurrected body. I mean, he's still a human, but way more.
Yes, he's passed through death and come out the other side, a walking, talking piece of new creation. And then Jesus tells them that he's going to give them the same divine power that sustained him, so they can go out and share the good news of God's kingdom with other people.
After this, Luke tells us that Jesus was taken up into heaven, which is a cool exit and all, but why disappear into the sky?
So in the Old Testament, the skies are the place of God's throne. They're above everything. So this is Luke's way of showing that Jesus has been enthroned as the divine king of the whole world.
His followers stay in Jerusalem, worshiping God and Jesus, waiting for this new power, and this is where the gospel ends.
Now, Luke is going to write about how they receive this power and take the news out into the world, and that's what his second volume, the book of Acts, is all about.
Bueno, muchachos, hemos llegado al final del episodio de Jesús es mi bro. La verdad, para mí me alegra mucho de que puedan estar con nosotros semana tras semana. Pero saben, no me puedo ir simplemente así, de la nada, sin antes dejarle un mensaje. Ahorita mismo estoy rodeado de un lugar que parece no ser tan bonito. Estamos donde arreglan los barcos, donde lo están reparando, donde lo están lijando y todo eso. Pues quiero decirte de que así mismo es Dios con nosotros. A veces podemos estar en lugares donde quizás no se vean los más hermosos. Podemos estar en momentos de nuestra vida donde parezca muy difícil lo que estamos pasando. Pero Dios, al igual que estos hombres con estos barcos, utilizan esos momentos, esos lugares para arreglarnos, para lijarnos y dejarnos como nuevo. Así que simplemente te quiero decir de que si en este momento estás pasando por un momento difícil, sigue confiando en Dios. No confíes ni en tu fuerza, ni en el dinero, ni en lo que puedan decirle a otras personas. Sigue confiando en Dios. Así que bueno, yo me despido, soy Jíbaro y nos vemos en el próximo episodio de Jesús es mi bro.
Hey, bendiciones mi gente, yo soy Madiel Lara on the beat y estoy aquí para anunciarles que este 14 de abril estaré por primera vez en Panamá, en Puerto Caimito. Así que únete a nosotros y a una sola voz diremos que
Dios nunca falla.